A Mistake, 2024. This film stars Elizabeth Banks as Elizabeth Taylor. I always wonder when people have the same name in the as th as the character, the same actor has the same name as the character because, when they call you, is it f in your role as an actor? However, um there's Simon McBurney, who also plays Andrew, who is Elizabeth's boss. She works in a hospital as a surgeon. She's very well established. She's had many years of working in it. Um, when we first see her, she's tired, but she's very competent, and she's called in to perform emergency surgery. And with with the patient, she discovers that it is going to be a very difficult surgery, and at some point, she makes a mistake, and it is slightly there's some blood and stuff, and I find those sort of scenes difficult, but they're brief and I could cope. I'm squeamish, but it wasn't too bad. And it was more the consequences. That's what this film is about. This woman who's had surgery, there are complications that um, later on lead to her going to ICU, you know, intensive care, and um, she dies. I mean, the that complication is revealed in the trailer, and there's this formal meeting about mortality and morbidity, chaired by Andrew. And there has been a mistake that Elizabeth has made, but the whole situation is complicated, and it feels like there's manipulation going on by the senior management in hospital, and this reminds me of what management structures are like. I knew that from my job, and my job wasn't anywhere nearly as um, serious as the consequences that can happen in a job like in medicine, where life and death depends on decisions. And there was one, I remember this sort of assessment where those sort of questions were asked about how whether lives depended on the decisions I made. And I was quite glad that wasn't the case in my job, which was more, um, I won't go into what my job was, but it was relatively, all of the jobs I've had, I've actually dealt with mortality statistics in one of my jobs in the past, but I've never been in the circumstances where the actions I've done have resulted in anything life-threatening or life and death situations. Now, it's so much more difficult when that is the case, and that applies to so many types of jobs. I mean, if you're flying an aircraft or you're driving, any form of driving jobs, from taxi driver to buses, I mean, the amount of risk um, that your job carries. There are so many jobs as adults we can have where what we do, I mean, actually, in daily life, if you do something wrong, it can lead to harm to another individual, even when it's not part of your job, but it's just so much more onerous when it's your job, because, it's down to your duty to save people, to do no harm, and the Hippocratic oath. So circumstances are so much more difficult. Of course, yeah, if you're driving or cycling or doing anything, um, it can cause harm to another individual if you're not paying attention, and that is what all of us have responsibility. Um, Now, there are safeguarding procedures in many circumstances, and in hospitals, there will be lots of them. And when there's meetings, serious meetings, and inquiries, and press, as um, there's press attention, there were press meetings and reports in the paper about Elizabeth in this story. And wow, there's some the way the power dynamic works, where at one point, again revealed in the trailer, Andrew turns out to be pretty misogynistic in saying that um, surgeon jobs by surgeons shouldn't be done by women, more or less. He says that in the trailer. As a reminder, I've just watched the trailer. And you think, wow, what 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 utter rubbish. But there is the mistake that Elizabeth has made, and she's got to come clean because um, a less experienced member of her team appears to be being forced to carry the can, or it seems like he's in a position, he's absolutely mortified. I mean, there's stuff that I'm not going to say because I don't want to give away spoilers, but the way the system is set up and the way that abuses of power have to be ironed out. And with all this stress of this situation, there's also this sub story involving a dog. And Elizabeth is asked, almost coerced, to look after this dog. She doesn't want to. She's got a lot on her plate, and in her flat, there's this situation where there's an infestation within one of the wall cavities, and she explores it, and she's looking after this dog. And there's other circumstances that develop, other problems develop, and it's like, oh my, I really had so much sympathy for her because it's so easy to do something that leads to the most awful of situations. So, um, I I I was wondering how on earth is she going to get out of this situation. I'm so glad it's fiction. I mean, in the real life circumstances, and there are so many of these, there are problems, but life is so complicated and is often portrayed simplistically for the court of public opinion. Politics has such a role in our lives. We see that time and time again. And I've covered that in other circumstances, in what I've said in vlogs and in film reviews. But wow, I really like this film. There was a lot to it. Elizabeth Banks is a great actor, and I'm going to score this 8.5 out of 10. Um, there's yeah, I won't go into how this film continues, but it's really interesting. It's got so much drama and tension because it seems like, oh, she's been done up like a kipper. to use a British expression, um, because it isn't totally her fault. It's not all down to her circumstances, and the way that she's been pressurized by management is appalling as well. And so coming clean is one of the options. But what happens? Well, watch the film, see what you think. 8.5 out of 10. Love to know what you think about this film if you've seen it. Please like if you like this review. Thanks if you subscribe and hit that notification button. And I hope to see you again soon. Bye for now.